Hello and welcome to this briefing by the Jerusalem Press Club. I am Jonathan Beck, Director of Content. Yesterday, reports were published in Israel of the arrests of two Israeli soldiers, one in active duty and the other in reserves, for allegedly spying for Iran. One of them served in the Iron Dome missile defense system, and according to the reports, he sent his Iranian handlers video clips he shot on his cell phone of parts of the system, as well as Israeli fighter jets taking off and other military installations. Our guest today is Dr. Eyal Pinko, senior researcher at the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies at Bar-Ilan University, and an expert on intelligence, international espionage, and maritime security. Pinko has in the past served as a case officer somewhere, never mind, and our listeners are welcome to peruse the website of his company, Terra Strategic Solutions, to learn of the other services that his company provides. I looked at the website, I couldn't quite make it out. Anyway, hello, Mr. Pinko. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Jonathan.
So in mid-September, there was the case of Yossi Maman, a middle-aged businessman from, I think, Ashkelon, who had some business interests in Turkey, and he was arrested. And I remember at the time he said he was offered, I think, $1 million. I'm not sure of the sum. And he kind of said, you know, I don't know what I would have done if it would have come to the actual handing of the money. And more than anything, it played on a kind of human weakness, not any ideology, but just like a person perhaps in distress, perhaps in of limited morals. Can you characterize for us the spies and the depth of this issue, and who is Iran looking for?
Yeah. So thank you very much. I always say that this kind of human operations, the human intelligence, as we call it, this is the oldest profession in the world. Because what you do in this profession, you characterize the person in front of you. You understand his motivations, his character, what drives him. And then based on that, you just do the right process in order to make him spy for you. It's a long process. It's not like I'm coming and I will give you money, and from there you will do that. And you see, by the way, this is very much like when you go to the U.S. Methods. The Americans are, according to open source, of course, they are suggesting the other person money, citizenships, and other financial benefits. And it not last for a long time, because the human we always say that the money is not the real driver. The money is only giving support to the other mental, psychological issues of the person. So if I will understand, Jonathan, for example, that you are lonely, or you want to serve your ego or other psychological motivation, I will play on that in order to give you the right motivation to do things until a certain moment that you will understand what you're doing, but you will not be able to go back. And this is exactly what the Iranian did. We can see in the last, let's take the 5 years as an example. And you see how the Iranian espionage in Israel got better and better with better means. It started over 4 or 5 years ago with examples that all the examples that I will give, I would like to mention, are being published already. So this is things from the media, and we will analyze things that were already appeared in the media. So 4 or 5 years ago, maybe 3 and a bit, some Iranian Jew on Facebook started to approach divorced women in Israel. He told them, look, I'm a lonely Jew in Iran. I love Israel very much. And then he started to speak with them on Messenger, on Facebook. And they were very connected to him, because they were lonely, they were frustrated, they disliked their ex-husband. And by that, he managed to slowly to speak to their soul, to their emotions. And they went to make some kind of espionage acts and to collect information for this guy. This is how it started 3 or 4 years ago. And we see huge escalation, especially in the last year. in which the internal security services managed to catch something like 7 or 8 people. It started with telegram communication between the Iranian intelligence. Iran has 2 intelligence agencies. One is the Revolution Guard Agency, intelligence agency, and the other is the Ministry of Intelligence that is reporting directly to the Minister of Defense. So they are a little bit competing with each other and working in parallel. So they started to engage people in Israel. All of them, 100% of them, were people that did the immigration to Israel during the 90s. They were around from the age of 35 to 50, like in the Ali Maman that you mentioned. They were very frustrated of what is happening in Israel. Their economical situation was bad. They hated the Israeli bureaucracy and system, and the Iranian played on their emotions. The Israeli this and the one, Eli Maman, for example, he didn't like Bibi Netanyahu, the prime minister. So they told him, Bibi needs to go out, he's the bad guy, and all of those. And here they really managed to go to his emotions and to say, yes, we need to take Bibi out. And this was part of the ideology. I would like to mention that during this time of the last 2 years, especially from the riots in the street before October 7 and while the war, Iran operated a lot of bots and avatars, fake identities on the websites, on social media, that were something like hundreds of them, that try to bring people to the streets, trying to put the riots over there, to speak badly about the government, about they're trying to change the democratical system in Israel, and so. And they were very influencing people because of the amount of avatars and the amount of messages they send. So take that, the human operations with the aid of social media that were radicalizing people, go to the streets, and they managed to do that. Another escalation with the Iranian operation was not only by go to the streets, make some riots, or take some pictures of bases and other security assets, but also to go and to do some active actions in the streets. They were caught that people that went to burn cars and tires, wheels, and people that put some graffiti and try really to make physical riots on the streets are as part of that. So everything is very well planned and combined as one integrated intelligence efforts. It's not only to gather information, but it's also to change the reality. And this is the beauty of intelligence, and this is what the Iranian did during this time. The last escalation that I will stop just for a comment. I would like to say that all of those people that were caught during the last year are former Soviet Union immigrants. They had no really ideology connection with the Israeli environment. They felt as foreigners. They didn't assimilate well in the community. So they were very well picked. It's not like it's some kind of random pick of those guys. The Iranian intelligence with Hezbollah 200 unit, with Hezbollah intelligence unit, they were picking people very, very well focused. They understood very well who they are. They build their profile, and based on that, they move on. The last case was yesterday. 2 Israeli soldiers. Once again, they were immigrants. The parents were immigrants, and they felt that they want to change something. The Iranian played on their emotions, and as you mentioned, Jonathan, they went to to picture and to bring information from Iron Dome batteries, from the Air Force itself, and other things.
Okay, so thank you very much for this extended introduction. And I was going to stop you and say this is a different case, and those cases in the past of the sending flowers, graffiti, firing cars, etc., I would typify as you know, a collective psychological warfare against Israel, and I would separate it from the case of the soldiers. But then you said this is all part of one parcel. Still, though, I mean, for example, the first case you mentioned. Okay, so this lonely Iranian Jew talked to the divorced women, and then he could maybe tell them to go to take pictures of the gates of military bases or to take pictures of the Kiryat in Tel Aviv. But these women, for once, they're not, you know, military trained or anything, and they don't have the classification. So I do think there is something different in yesterday's case. And what I would like to ask you is, first of all, in all these cases, do these people, for example, the guy who was against Netanyahu, there's still like, is he aware that his handler is an Iranian agent, or is the handler posing as a political activist in Israel and they are like secondarily handled to be operated? And the second thing is, how come people, like you mentioned, with lacks ideological connection to the state, etc., are not caught in like the security classification of soldiers intended for secret installations, etc.
Yeah, we saw here, and we know there are two main ways how to approach your source, what we call your objective. The first one, we call it a forehead connection, that you go straight directly to him. You said, I am the Iranian, I'm Hezbollah, I want you to operate for me. We saw many cases like that, especially when the Iranian and Hezbollah approached Israeli Arabs from all over the country, which are Israeli citizens. And they told them, we are Hezbollah, we don't like the Zionists, go and gather information for us. This is one case we saw. But once again. Yeah,
I was told that these are bad agents because, you know, those Arabs don't have the security clearance to get to like where they need to go.
Yes and no, but you know, when they collected information, they, for example, collected information to target specific areas. We know that while the first Iranian attack, the bases that were attacked, for example, with Golani Infantry Brigade and Rafael in the north, were very much targeted by the Iranian with the aid of people that are going there. It's not enough to use Google Maps. You want to go there to picture the buildings from the outside, the ways to go inside. You know, it's all operation for gathering information how to attack with missiles. So it's not only you don't need clearance to go inside the bases. It's enough to picture from the outside with the accurate GPS the environment. Okay, so this is one way. The other way is the classical way, which also we saw that with the soldiers and with Eli Maman and the other things. You are creating a backup story, a cover story, and which in the cover story you have some kind of initiation, business initiation, startup. You may be in some kind of activists. You're creating the cover story according to the person you want to recruit, your objective. So it's very well, as you saw it very well, that it will be relevant to the guy that you want to recruit to your help. And this is what they did. For example, Eli Maman, they told him, come to Turkey. I don't remember if it was Ankara or Istanbul. Let's make some businesses. We have some very nice business opportunities. And back then, you know, you start like the other guy. You start to establish some kind of friendship. And then slowly, you give some kind of a test mission. Go and bring me information. And do you know some place regarding this and that? So you give a very, very simple missions. After those simple missions, you give the objective some kind of a small fee. that he will feel excited. The psychological element of getting rewards is very important. Like you play in your phone with the cellular phone with games, you get stars and coins as a reward. This is a very important psychological effect. So you're getting this kind of small rewards, and these missions are getting more and more harder. And then you go to the sensitive missions after you have a bond with your handler, with the case officer. And once you understand that something is wrong or something is suspicious, or you go to the extreme, they already got you because you did some sensitive missions. They can say, okay, I will go to your wife, I will go to your family, to the police, never mind. And then you're stuck. So in most cases, everything is being done below the curtain, under a cover story, but at one moment the curtain is moving, and then the objective is seeing that he's already caught, and he cannot do anything but continue his missions.
Okay, that's interesting. I didn't think of this aspect that if they have a change of heart, they can afterwards be blackmailed. What I did notice on yesterday's case with the soldiers and the Iron Dome is that it seemed like the military censorship revealed more about what the pictures were of, etc., and voices. Even this morning on the radio, on the Reshet Bet show, which everyone listens to, the news hosts were kind of joking about the crypto payments, etc. And the guy from I don't remember the name of the IDF unit at the moment, but he was saying, let's take this seriously. So it's obvious there is some kind of public effort to, warn others. Now, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I made a check before we started the briefing. Israel has, in its criminal law, the death penalty for 2 cases, of which one is treason. And apart from Adolf Eichmann, the one person in Israel who was ever executed was called, let me just not get his name wrong, Meir, just for, Meir Tubiansky during the War of Independence, and then it was found out that he was actually executed for the wrong reasons. Could Israel, even as some measure of deterrence against potential spies, warn that it may use this method of punishment, because it seems the depth of the problem is bigger than it seems?
Yeah. First, for the first issue you raised, I believe that the Israeli military raised this issue first to say that the intelligence that they gathered has no importance, to diminish the importance of what they did, and secondly, for sure, for deter others not doing that. This is for the IDF spokesman announcements.
Is this necessarily true, or could it be a counter operation?
Yes. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Maybe also it may raise some other suspects while or some other people that did similar things while interrogating and publishing this kind of activity. And that, by the way, as you said, nowadays with the cryptocurrency, it's very simple to pay agents. Most of it, you take a crypto wallet. The ability to track the money and to understand the source and the destination is very, very limited. It's possible, but it's limited. About the death penalty. Look, in Israel, we have laws for death penalty, for example, for terrorists, not only for spies. But I don't think that anyone in the Israeli system, government or other systems, or the judges, nobody will go into this action. This, I think, is a very extreme actions in Israel. And even though they can be as a deterrence, I believe that nobody will go there. And I must tell you something. When you're an agent, I can tell you, as I'm saying that as a case officer, X1. I'm glad to say that I'm 7 years on a pension from this job. I can tell you that in most cases, the objectives are don't feel that they may somebody can catch them. They feel very secured, I will say, because at the beginning they're doing things that are not bad, or they are legit, and after that they are the connection, the bond with the case officer is so strong that they feel secure and protected. Even take the most known case in Israel about Pollard, Jonathan Pollard, that was spying for Israel, Germany, and other countries in the US. Everybody's saying that he was an Israeli spy, but he was not only Israeli spy. He spied for other countries as well. And he was totally sure that nobody will catch him. He did all the mistakes in the world and didn't do any kind of security measures, and he was caught. But during the time, he was 100%, because of the mentality because of the psychological profile. He thought nothing will be there. He will not get caught. So this is usually what is getting there, and therefore I don't think death penalty will do some kind of deterrence really in this manner.
Okay, I have one more question before we finish. About a month ago, I spoke to an intelligence researcher who's like a Begin Sadat Center colleague of yours, Professor Shimon Shpiro, and he told me that what we see in the news is perhaps, it's the tip of the iceberg, and he said perhaps 10%. So that's very troubling, the depth of Iranian penetration into Israeli, I thought, military intelligence, but you also say basically, the psychology of the collective Israeli public, etc., which also puts into question other things that happened during this war. Really, what can Israel do? I mean, can it tighten its security clearance checks? Can it do recurring checks? Can it maybe tighten also the control of digital devices separately from the people who carry them? Or is it all about, the human aspect and the weakness of character, or the traits of character that make a person, a good candidate to become a spy?
Yeah. I want to before answering, I want to tell you two details, or two very interesting information. First, in the last 12 years, more than 600 Chinese spies were caught by the FBI in the US. 600 something like 12 years in the US itself. I published today on my LinkedIn, before we spoke, that China is operating more than 600,000 operatives all over the globe. 600,000. It's huge numbers. Why I'm speaking about China? Because we need to see that the espionage problem is not only by Iran. We need to understand that the triangle.
Just to stop you for a second, would these by necessity be Chinese people, or in general?
Most of them were Chinese with Chinese root, not necessarily people that were born in China, but the ancestors are Chinese, most of them, but not necessarily. And we see that the connections and the bond, the strategic bond between China, Russia, and Iran are one. They are intelligence gathering centers which are being operated by those three actors. So when we speak, for example, about the Israeli espionage cases during the last years, I can assess in a high percentage or high probability that they were connected, and the approach, or at least saying who this person will be, also with collaboration with Iran and Russia, not only by Iran. Because during the 90s, there was a huge wave of immigration from ex-Soviet Union countries to Israel. Or it was around 1 million people. And even back then, we assessed that some percentage of them will be spies or will be grown as spies. And see what is happening now. Something is after 20 years or 30 years, suddenly you have spies from those countries. I don't think it's random. I don't think it's by mistake. I think this is kind of process. So I think that the challenge is much higher, because it's to go against Chinese espionage, Iranian and Russian at once. By the way, all the European and the US countries are part of that. It's not only Israel that needs to deal with that. As I said, see the amount of espionage, the Chinese espionage in Israel and in the US and in the EU. More than that, the Chinese are coming with the initiation of the Belt and Road, the famous Belt and Road initiation, which part of that, or I said that one of the most important building block of that is espionage, is technological and military espionage. And we know that China and Iran are gathering information together. So it's a huge problem for all the Western world, not only for Israel. And we share the same challenges, the same problems with these countries. What should be the measures? First, monitoring much better the social media channels, which is very complicated. And the probability to find something which is, putting some black flag above someone's heads, it's very not so easy. It's very challenging. This is one. Secondly, when we speak about going into the governmental agencies, ministries, banks, the banking systems, and other critical infrastructure, the inspection, the due diligence process should be much stronger before entering the job, while the job, for example, in the Israeli intelligence system, you need to go to a polygraph check every certain amount of years. So in the banking systems as well, in Israel at least. So, there is, when you speak with European countries or the US, the privacy is much important than the security, because, for example, performing polygraph checks, it's something which will say that in European countries, it will not go so easily. But this is part of the things to do a background checks before, while, after leaving the job, and especially when we speak about sensitive places.
Okay, thank you for this. I have just one final question. Do you assess that there was any significant harm caused by whatever the two soldiers caught yesterday did, that might even entail, redesigning parts of the system, etc.? Or are these details unknown and we just, we know that they spy for Iran?
Yeah. According to the IDF spokesman and what was released to the public, I will say that these soldiers are low level with intelligence operatives. So probably the information that they gave was not so with a high demand or high quality. Even though every piece of information is helping, I don't know what they except of pictures. I don't know what they delivered. It may be the system procedures, operational procedures. It can be the parameters, for example, the frequencies, how many interceptors can be at one time in the air while engaging threats. There are many sensitive information that they were exposed to. I don't know what they delivered, but in any case, this is a relatively low level. If I can assess and to make some kind of assessment, what is the situation, I believe there are many more among us. Ex-Soviet Unions, Chinese, Iranians, that they are operating here in Israel. And
also inside the military?
My assessment is yes. In the military, inside even the defense industries, it's only an assessment. Okay, it's not being. I don't have information regarding that, but if I analyze correctly the Russian and the Chinese motivations, I certainly can assess that there is inside the system as well.
Okay.
Only as assessment, once again.
Very interesting and somewhat troubling. You know, China is a bigger threat than Iran, and China also has some business interest in Israel, including the country's largest dairy. Thank you very much, Dr. Pinko, for this briefing. It was fascinating, and I thank Ali Naor for the tech support she gave me on this. Thank you for the journalists who listened. This will later be available on our YouTube website. Once again, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you very much. Be well.